Welcome to the Edge. Nora Patterson, County Commissioner, and where's your position in the County Commission in these days?
I'm Vice Chairman.
You're Vice Chair. Nora has generously given up her time to talk to me about something that's rather new and exciting and on a horizon, not maybe the nearest horizon, but a horizon of the future. And it's called TBARTA. And you want to talk about that a little bit, Nora?
Sure. TBARTA, which is a very strange sounding name, stands for the Tampa Bay Area Regional Transportation Authority. It is a coalition of 7 counties, of which Sarasota is the southernmost. And we were not thrilled to be drafted into that 7-county coalition originally, but the legislature, in their wisdom, saw fit to do that. And the reason we were not thrilled is because the heart of that area is the large counties of Hillsborough and Pinellas County, and we figured as part of an authority we would end up supporting the larger counties with our tax base when we desperately need money for transportation locally as well. However, I have been the representative of the county on TBARTA ever since its inception. And what I have found is that Sarasota County has actually invested more than most of the 7 counties in transit and in transportation per capita. And the other representatives are looking at us as possibly one of the leaders in trying to develop better public transportation. However,
I have to interject something. For the longest time, SCAT, as it's called, didn't serve people on Sundays, and now I guess they do.
Yeah, that was pretty recent.
Right.
We started that because there are employers that are open on Sundays, and those lines are doing pretty well. The SCAT improvements, which are being done without TBARTA, it has nothing to do with the Tampa Bay Area Regional Transportation Authority.
But you were citing the lead that you're taking in this county, so I thought maybe that might be thrown in.
Well, where we have really made great strides is in partnering with Manatee County. We actually have our own little regional conversation going. We have lines that go from Palmetto to downtown Sarasota, and those lines are taking people to and from work. We have 20,000 people that live in Sarasota County and commute to Manatee County for work. And we have 10,000 people live in Manatee County that commute to Sarasota County for work.
So there's a real mesh going on.
Yeah, and previously to our deciding that we needed to do this together, people were having to transfer from one bus to another at the county line, which made absolutely no sense. So we have cooperated. We have taken what was a 1-hour headway in buses, reduced it to half an hour, and it is seamless transit running back and forth, and those buses are standing room only. The ridership has gone way up. And we also have put together a partnership with Manatee County to serve Longboat Key. Previously, the only transit on Longboat was provided by Sarasota, and we went a little bit more than halfway up into Manatee County. And the people who rode that were primarily the people who worked in the hotels and motels, and they transferred on and took those buses from downtown Sarasota. Well, now we go all the way up, and we hook on with the little trolley system, and this is done by trolley, for the island cities, and they have an incredible system up there in those little islands, Holmes Beach and Anna Maria, etc., Bradenton Beach. And so our trolley starts in downtown Sarasota and goes all the way up through those island cities, and it works really well. But that partnership will grow into a still larger partnership with TBARTA, and in fact,
so that is going to merge with TBARTA.
It is part of TBARTA.
It's part of it.
It is absolutely part of TBARTA. And TBARTA is going to take responsibility ultimately, at least in theory, for developing the spine of a 7-county transit system, which will be part rail, part commuter rail, part light rail, and part bus rapid transit. And for
on the rapid transit bus, let me interject. You mentioned in our pre-conversation that they're going to take over some rail lines and turn it into a bus route, an express bus route from University Parkway, I believe, and down to 10th Street.
10th Street. Well, this is not something we can do alone. Buying that rail line and establishing that infrastructure is very expensive. We have a grant that is a very lengthy process to get through a program, a federal program called Small Starts. And the application is for 50 to 70 million. And it would allow us to buy the rail line and create a dedicated corridor that would be part of a larger route. And what that will do for us is allow a bus to be competitive with the automobile in terms of speed, so that we could pick up riders who might ride the bus by choice, not just because it is their only option. Mm-hmm. But more excitingly, really, is the fact that TBARTA has finished a 7-county plan, which includes routes in Sarasota County that go all the way to Northport, both down I-75 and probably down 41, connects up Bee Ridge Road, up Fruitville Road, and then local transit would logically fill in the gap. This is not the answer to all of our transportation problems, but the truth is we spend incredible amounts of money on roads, and people are traveling by car much longer distances than they used to. And little factoid I was given by the mayor of Tampa is that the average commuter time spent in Florida by people is 45 hours every year just sitting in traffic, with a cost to the individual of $809 a year, a regional cost of over $1 billion. And that doesn't count the public cost to build and widen the roads and add turn lanes and try to build our way out of congestion.
Coming back to the what is TBARTA question, Hillsboro's role in this. You made mention that it's kind of an interesting and important fact.
Hillsboro has some very ambitious plans to bring light rail into being that will connect the university and the major,
USF.
the West Shore Mall, USF, and it's actually a U of a network that they want to put together fairly quickly, and they're going to go not only to the feds, but they're going to go to their own population as rapidly as next November for a referendum for still an additional penny of sales tax.
1 penny.
And
from
1
7 cents to 8 cents.
That's correct. And I don't really know whether they'll support that or not. It's in the middle of a recession. That's a tough call. But they seem to feel they have the polling numbers and want to move ahead. And 25% of that would actually be dedicated to roads, conventional transportation. And then 75% would build light rail, commuter rail, sort of like what you see at Disney World. Very attractive, sleek,
comfortable
methods of riding fairly long distances.
So that's a futuristic thing. Now you mentioned to me that there's a connection up to, you've got a little map over here. Do you want to talk about that? That there's a, is that the Sunrail, or that's the Sunrail?
Well, it's been an interesting conversation.
I mean, you got about according to some figures, anywhere between 1.2 and 1.7 for rail of high speed sort, and this is part of that, or? Well,
what's happened is this year the legislature had a special session over Sunrail. Sunrail is intended to be in the Orlando area and be a commuter rail, taking people a short distance. It's over track that is currently used for freight and will double as freight and passenger. And
now, is that part of the one from Orlando to Tampa?
No, it's not.
Okay.
In fact, it's very confusing because the conversations in the newspaper have been rather difficult. But they also asked the federal government for $2.5 billion to connect between Orlando and Tampa, and the federal government gave them 1.25, half of what they asked, with the promise of more to come, and that would provide express rail service, which is just maybe 4 or 5 stops between Orlando and Tampa over about 80 miles. So to show the audience where that would be, the Sunrail conversation is up here, the red dotted line, and this is from a couple of little towns in the Orlando area, and it's an area of fairly high density and will provide much more rapid stops. And that will be commuter rail.
You mean frequent stops?
Much more frequent stops, right. Whereas this black dotted line here would go from it looks like the airport in Orlando all the way to Tampa. That would have very few stops, and I think the travel time on that is going to be, I don't know, 110 miles an hour. It will be a really
Wow.
rapid
So that's going to really,
rail.
people are going to be on I-4 and they're going to see that thing flying by and be pretty impressed, I would say.
In both cases, Sunrail will take traffic off incredibly congested I-4.
4 is like a parking lot at
4
times.
is a parking lot. 4 is constantly under construction to widen it. Nobody can keep up with the growth in automobile traffic on it. So this should be a great reliever for the most congested area, which is right around Orlando. And then this high-speed rail should be the beginning of a high-speed rail system for Florida.
Now, is that the one replacing CSX? The taking over the freight line that was there?
Well, it's not going to take it over. I believe that there still will be some freight, although the details on
But on
this,
the same track? No.
probably different times of day, and I can't give you the details. I'm sorry.
Now, well, usually freight
If
requires
I were in Orlando, I could give you all the details.
Yeah. Usually freight requires a different track because of the weight and it's destructive to high-speed rail.
Yeah, but the conversation, I think, has not been that. So
They're
we'll,
not there.
we'll have
I
to
see.
say.
So they're actually talking about using the same rail?
That was my understanding.
Really? Wow. I just cite the situation. The gates are in between Chicago and St. Louis, and we talked in the pre-conversation a little bit about this, because Illinois is another, they're getting $2 billion for this. The rail has already been there, but it was already passenger rail. There's no freight for the most part, although there has been some. They're taking that away. They're putting parallel freight lines because there was a law that stopped the passenger trains. The freight lines had the right of way, and I think that's still true in a lot of places. So I just kind of interesting, the Illinois, Florida, and there's a total of $8 billion that's being allocated just for this kind of thing. And then I guess Kansas City, St. Louis is supposed to get something as well.
Well, and of course, it's pretty impressive that Florida got 1.25 billion
Right,
out of the 8, because there are lots of areas that need it. One really positive thing for South Florida, which is very congested, if you've driven down there and tried to get like from the mainland out to Key Biscayne on Friday evening,
95
it's
is
pretty, and 95 is just a nightmare. They have had something called Tri-Rail that has been supported by the state for a number of years, and it is a successful commuter rail that brings folks from outlying areas into the urban area. And the state support was supposed to dwindle, if not stop. And the counties involved, Broward and Dade, just simply couldn't carry it and make it work. And part of the decisions on setting up a rail authority for the state of Florida, actually it's a commission of some sort, apparently is to extend the state assistance for Tri-Rail, which is really good for that area of the state.
So these monies are dedicated, all this